Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September 7th, 2021 City Council Workshop and Meeting. Tonight begins with a couple of executive sessions and then a brief workshop in reference to a remote meeting participation policy. With that, I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, a motion by Councilor Khalid, seconded by Councilor LaJoy to enter into executive session. Number 1. To enter into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Section 405-6A to discuss a personnel matter regarding the appointment to the City Council. Okay, call the roll.
Sure. Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
thank you. Okay, good evening, everybody. Folks that have come in within the past half hour or so, we were in a couple of executive sessions. We're still in a work session, so our next work session item is going to be started, and then we'll go into our official business meeting after that. Okay, so with that said, we have a workshop on remote meeting participation policy, and
Yes, so thank you, Mayor. So I'm gonna kick it off for you. So in your packet is a proposed remote meeting participation policy, just as a draft for discussion. So just brief set of background. As you know, the state had a state of emergency that allowed all municipalities to meet remotely. That state of emergency ended at the end of June. That state of emergency allowed municipalities to continue meeting remotely until the end of July, but that has since expired regarding the ability for municipalities to meet remotely because the state of emergency has expired. The governor proposed LD 32, which was approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, which allows municipalities to adopt rules and policies if they want to. It's completely optional, to allow for the parameters for future remote meetings. Before you is a compilation of the samples. LD 32 had very specific language regarding remote meeting policies. We took samples from the Maine Municipal Association, from Brandon Isaacson, from the City of Portland, and the Town of Scarborough. A lot of it is basically verbatim of what you see before you here. What staff is looking for is some feedback from you on the proposal. There are two primary areas we're looking for feedback on. One is, do you want this to be applicable, if you do want to adopt it, do you want it to be applicable to just the city council or the city council and all city boards and committees, is one of the questions. The other question is, the way it is written, there are basically two sections, and I'll bring your attention to page 1 under attendance. You'll see number 1. That is the allowance for 100% remote. Let's say that COVID kicks up again and we have a local state of emergency, then we could meet 100% remotely like we have been doing in Zoom if we adopt the policy with the language in number 1. The language in number 2 allows for basically a hybrid style, which would mean if at least one city councilor cannot attend the meeting due to those issues outlined, such as illness, temporary absence from the city, or so forth, we could conduct what's called a hybrid meeting if you adopt this policy. I will point out that there is a clause that is required to be included here, and that's on page 2. The very first sentence in the members of the public line. This is from the state law that says if at least one member of the city council will be participating remotely, then members of the public have a right to participate in the meeting remotely. And participate means two-way communication. We would hear them and they would hear us. I will say that the city's IT department has expressed concerns regarding the technical challenges for implementing that. They don't feel that our current equipment in the city council chambers can accommodate that. They are concerned regarding feedback from the multiple microphones, being able to hear adequately. So they do have some concerns on that regarding technical issues. I will say that the policy before you, we have discovered that many communities have adopted in full and are applying it to both their council and their boards and committees, and having both the emergency clause for 100% remote as well as the hybrid. But of course, the tech equipment in city council chambers differs with every community. So they've worked that out somehow. So basically, tonight we just wanted to present this to you. If the city does not adopt this, we do not have the legal authority under statute to meet remotely. So if COVID should, or another issue should uptick, minus a statewide state of emergency, we wouldn't have the ability to meet remotely without a locally adopted policy. So we wanted to give it to you tonight in workshop, give you an opportunity to have give some feedback for staff, and then we'll bring it back for final adoption at a future meeting. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Councilor Ray?
So I just wanted to weigh in. I think we should go just with option 1, full meetings remotely, no hybrid option. Back when, pre-COVID, when I was traveling a lot for work, I just planned around the meetings that we had, and I think that city staff is communicative and responsible enough to give us those dates ahead of time, and so if we do have to be absent from the city, we can plan it. And hearing that it's a challenge for our IT department is really concerning. And I think it should apply to all boards or committees. So if, as COVID kind of builds up again, if, the planning board wants to move to remote and that's a decision among their body, I would respect that. And it seems to me, at least, that fully remote meetings automatically loop in the public based on the IT we've had. So that's my quick download.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Jelinas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly would be interested in hearing from the interim city administrator about the city's take on this, but from my perspective, I definitely would concur with Councilor Ray. I'm in support of number one. Regardless of where we stand from an IT perspective, I don't find hybrid meetings to be particularly effective from a, reciprocal communication standpoint.
I would concur with that. The other issue is the technical difficulties. You tend to lose momentum in a meeting if you run into those. If there's feedback, some people can't hear. There's a lot of different variations with that proves to, operate a meeting in a facility or in a manner with which is productive for both you as the council or the other boards and committee as well as the public.
Councilor LaJoy?
I would agree with utilizing the first one for emergency. However, I cannot go along with the second part of it. I think it's important that we're here in person. And if you're sick, you don't want to be on a TV or a screen and try to take part in the meeting. I wouldn't feel that way. So I would go for the first section only as well.
Okay, thank you. I also agree. I think one is acceptable. I don't believe we should move to any remote. Any other thoughts from councilors?
Mr. Mayor, the only question would be whether or not, if we were to adopt option 2, whether we would have to implement that prior to being satisfied that we could meet the technical requirements, or can we visit that in the future?
Absolutely. You could adopt at the next meeting just the section regarding number 1, and at any time, at any future council meeting, you can incorporate number 2. Yes.
I think as technology improves, then that may be something we want to revisit, but I don't have a problem either way.
All right, staff, do you feel you have enough guidance?
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. We'll bring it back at the meeting on the 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that said, we're going to move into our regular business meeting. That's official. I have to do that, just so you folks know. So the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And once we're done with the pledge, if everybody could just remain standing for one moment. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So what I'd like to do is the council will not be meeting before 9/11. I'd just like to have a really brief moment of silence in recognition of the 20th anniversary and the number of lives that were lost, from first responders to citizens of this country. So. All right, thank you. Okay, roll call votes.
Sure, all roll call votes for this meeting will begin with the councilor of Ward 3.
All right. At this point, it's a public comment period. Any member of the public may make comments regarding issues pertaining to Lewiston city government. This period is reserved for comments that do not pertain to any agenda items. Public comments will also be allowed during individual agenda items. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Please state your name for the record, and if you are a resident of Lewiston, and if you know the ward that you reside in, please share that as well. Because this is a business meeting of the City Council, all questions should be directed to the mayor, who will ask staff to contact the person asking the question for a future response. It is illegal for the city council to allow comments related to personnel matters involving complaints. These complaints should be made directly to our city administration. Finally, because we are now in election season, if a candidate is present and wishing to address the council on city business, we ask that you refrain from announcing you're running for a specific position. Council business meetings are not the place for campaigning, so if folks could just keep all that in mind. With that, this is public comment period for anything that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a public comment? Okay, so if you could, we'll go up to the podium, and it's on non-agenda items. And then just state your name, and if you're a Lewiston resident, please.
How you doing? My name's David Valia, and I own a business in Lewiston, Totally Kids Child Care and Learning Center.
Okay?
Can I go ahead and?
Yep, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay. The reason I'm here tonight is, like I said, I own Totally Kids Child Care and Learning Center in Lewiston. I've owned it with my wife, Michelle, for about 13 years now. And there's a proposal to put a marijuana grow facility next door, approximately 300 feet from where our children play. We are licensed for 114 children. We provide early education, as well as preschool childcare from ages infant all the way up to age 12, I believe. Now, the Lewiston ordinance currently states, no marijuana business shall be sited within 750 feet of the lots of pre-existing schools, childcare facilities, and public parks, playgrounds, and recreational facilities. It then goes further to contradict itself by stating that setbacks shall be measured along ordinary course of travel between the main entrance of the business and the closest lot lines of pre-existing schools, childcare facilities, public parks, playgrounds. So the way the plan is designed is what they have done to kind of do back handsprings to make this plan comply is relocate the driveway. So essentially you go down the street, back up into the marijuana grow facility to the back door, which is actually closer to our playground, to gain their 750 feet. I'm here tonight because this really needs to be, it's kind of an emergency thing that needs to be, the ordinance needs to be modified. Losing my train of thought here.
That's fine.
But that's why we're here tonight, to try to get this ordinance modified. It does actually go against the state's ordinance, which states that a municipality may lower that 1,000 feet, but may not go less than 500 feet. Again, this building, proposed marijuana grow facility, is about 300 feet from where our children play. Okay. And the goal of these ordinances is to protect our children. That's my main goal. We want to keep marijuana, as well as any other drugs, as far away from our children as possible. And at that, I will hand it off to my wife, Michelle, and she can take it from there.
Hi, thanks for letting me come today.
If we could, we're just going to reboot the 3 minutes. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So basically, David said it all. We're just here to advocate and do what's right for children and I guess fight for what we believe is an educational facility. We serve early childhood and education to young children ages infant through 12 years of age, and you know, we're here to advocate to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Okay. All right, thank you. So I guess I would ask staff maybe to connect with these folks at another time.
Yes, certainly.
Okay. So staff will get a hold of you so that they can hear out your concerns and see if there's some alternative that we could come up with that might be helpful.
I would just like to add to that, the plan has been approved from code enforcement.
Okay, so I think it's still, at this point, it's really important you connect with admin, and they'll
Okay.
bring things to the council should it be.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Amy Dietrich, and I am here with the couple that just spoke. I am a partner at Skelton Taylor and Abbott over in Lewiston. We just relocated not too long ago down the road. And what I want to do is just highlight a few pieces of what David and Michelle were saying. It's a fairly urgent issue, and it has come to our attention that the way that the city ordinance is written is being interpreted and subverted by folks who are interested in putting marijuana cultivation facilities next to areas where children are learning and playing. And as David indicated, the state law is very clear that under no circumstances can a city allow a marijuana cultivation facility to be put in more or less than 500 feet from an area where children are learning. And the way that the ordinance is written, the way it's being interpreted, has allowed a marijuana cultivation facility to not only be sited within 500 feet, it's actually within 0 feet of the lot line that my clients operate their child care and educational facility within, because it directly abuts the marijuana cultivation facility. There is no screening being planned, so the children will be playing directly within sight lines of the marijuana cultivation facility. We understand that's going to be inside, but it's still the stated purpose of both Lewiston and the state of Maine for there to be a buffer, a distance buffer between children and drug activity. So we would really encourage and implore the city to close this loophole so that there is that distance between children and drugs that the Lewiston City Council enshrined in the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments this evening? Okay, thank you. So unless there's an objection from the council, after the consent agenda, I plan on moving agenda item number 24 to the front.
What about the acceptance of minutes?
Yes, give me 1 second to finish my thought here. Okay. So unless there's an objection for the council, I'll be moving item 24 to the top of the agenda. We have someone here who's hoping to speak in reference to that item, and she has to travel a long distance this evening. So for that purposes, I'd like to do that. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of August 3rd and 17th.
Second the motion.
Moved by Councilor LaJoy, seconded by Councilor Clement.
We did not receive the August 17th minutes in time, so it would just be for the August 3rd.
Just the August 3rd, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
And those are as amended in today's email.
Yes, thank you.
okay. Any questions or comments on the minutes? If not, call the roll.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. A consent agenda, please.
Sure, there are 4 items on the consent agenda this evening. Item number 1, appointment to the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission Board of Directors. Number 2, amendments to the traffic schedule regarding parking prohibited on portions of Whipple Street. Number 3, order selling a portion of AL Airport land to Tam Brands at a selling price equal to fair market value. And number 4, order authorizing the acceptance of Fawn Lane as a public street, part of the Deer Ridge subdivision.
So moved.
Second the motion.
Okay. Call the roll.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to confirm no objections from the council in moving that item. Okay, thank you. So with that, so is this now 1, or should I just call it 24?
We'll call it 24 just to keep
Okay.
things straight. That's okay. That would help me. Thank you.
Okay,
So item 24, resolve renaming of the footbridge that connects Lewiston and Auburn as the John T. Jenkins Memorial Footbridge in tribute to former Mayor Jenkins. Requested action to approve the resolve renaming of the footbridge that connects Lewiston and Auburn as the John T. Jenkins Memorial Footbridge in tribute to former Mayor Jenkins.
So moved.
okay, moved by Councilor Khalid, seconded by Councilor Jelinas. So I just quickly want to add that Mayor Levesque and I discussed this approximately a year ago. earlier this year. And I remember as a child watching Mayor Jenkins go from Lewiston to Auburn and then also serving as a senator. I can't think of a better person to pay tribute to for his service to our community through youth and all the way up to his public service as an elected official. And he did it with honor and integrity, and he built so many bridges in our community, and that's why I believe this is probably the best way that we can memorialize his service to our community. With that, I'll open it up to the council for any thoughts, but I do know that we have his fiancée here to share her thoughts. Would you like to go directly to her before the council? So, Ms. Parker.
I thank you all very much, Mr. Mayor, councilors, members of the public. And thank you for moving the agenda item for the convenience, too. I do have to leave to go out of town, but I did not want to miss this. So even just hearing you say that just makes me smile. It's been a little tough to smile without John around, and for those of you who knew him, John had a perpetual smile most of the time. I am here to speak in favor of item agenda number 24, at renaming the footbridge for John T. Jenkins. And when John became ill, which was sooner than any of you knew, he swore me to secrecy, and that was also very hard. And for a couple of seconds to take that, John was just one of those invincible guys. And it was discovered that he had esophageal cancer. I brought him to Boston for a second opinion and third opinions, and because it just couldn't be real, but being John Jenkins, we knew he would beat it. So John still, you saw him around town, and July and August, he was wearing layers of clothing so that people wouldn't see his weight loss. He grew a beard so that people wouldn't notice that his face was thinner. And still, he troopered on and thought, we were going to chalk this up to 2020 and he would beat it. But despite every effort, we all know the outcome. And he gave it a good fight. And one of the last things that John said to me was that his story isn't finished yet. And for you to see the giant of a man that John Jenkins was, although he was only, 5'9", he was a giant of a man. And you're helping to continue that story. And it's appreciated more than you know. For a bridge connects two places to join them together as a benefit, because you can't reach one without that bridge. Whether it was at the post office or at BJ's or sitting at the council table in the mayor's seat on both sides of the river, nobody connected with people quite like John Jenkins. And there are very few people who could make that connection with children, veterans, the elderly, everyday citizens, no matter where he was. And what he did over the past several years since he, left public service, and you may not have seen him in the public eye as much, but trust me, he was still out there connecting with people. Somewhat cathartic about this is with John's death, it has left a giant chasm, and this is how I think of it. And a bridge also spans over that chasm. So it's a positive step forward as well, besides being just a connection. And we do have quite a bit of things in the works to memorialize John, and it just hasn't, a lot of it hasn't come out. I guess this is a public forum to let you folks know that there is a book being written. There's a committee. We're working on a book. We have an author. We'll be collecting stories. I'll be reaching out to you. Probably get in touch with Kathy. And we are looking to plan a proper celebration of John's life, 2022. It was very difficult during COVID and to have such a, a small gathering, but John knows, he's up there watching, and I think he's very humbled by your actions at renaming this footbridge. So there are things in the works in the future, but the fact that you're doing this now in a collaboration of the Twin Cities is just beyond what we could have hoped for and extremely appreciated. So there's nothing more suitable for the legacy of John Jenkins than naming a bridge in his name for connecting the very two cities in which he served. And I thank both mayors and both city councils and public and all of his supporters for being able to make this happen. And we appreciate it very much. And thank you for renaming the footbridge for the John T. Jenkins legacy and starting this post-John Jenkins legacy tribute. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for taking time to address the council. With that said, questions or comments from the council? Councilor LaJoy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I met John early in my career in the fire department while he was going to Bates College. And one of the things that we used to talk about in the fire department was the individual from Bates that was running backwards most of the time. So they said, well, he's just trying to get back to where he was. But fact of the matter is we became friendly with John, and he would visit the stations. As we all got older, and the department became more professional, John would help us in leadership classes and so on. So it's a great thing that we're doing, and I agree with it. A bridge is to bring two entities together for the better of both. And so I'm very happy that this is going to happen.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Councilor Jelinas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too knew John primarily through the Chamber of Commerce, and I just want to say thank you to you tonight for coming and sharing your heart and just verbalizing such a beautiful, beautiful tribute to him. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, to the public? Okay, seeing none, back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Sure. Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 5, please. Thank you.
Item number 5, public hearing on a new application for a liquor license for Melissa's Pub and Grill, 675 Main Street. Requested action to authorize the city clerk's office to approve a new application for a liquor license for Melissa's Pub and Grill, 675 Main Street.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Ray and seconded by Councilor Jelinas. With that, I'll turn it over to the public. Okay, seeing none, back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, please.
Item number 6, public hearing on the renewal application for a special amusement permit for live entertainment for LA Public Theater Incorporated, 31 Maple Street. Requested action to grant a special amusement permit for live entertainment to LA Theater Incorporated, 31 Maple Street.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Jelinas, and with that, I'll open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the council? To the public? Okay, and I'll close the public hearing and call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes?
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 7, please.
Item number 7, public hearing and adoption of an order regarding an amendment to the city charter regarding elected and appointed officials' forfeiture of or removal from office. Requested action, to approve the order directing that an amendment to the Lewiston City Charter be placed on the November 2nd, 2021 municipal ballot, which relates to the elected and appointed officials' forfeiture of or removal from office.
So move.
Second the motion.
Okay, moved by Counselor LaJoy, seconded by Counselor Clement. With that, I'll open the public hearing. And is there any questions or comments from the council? Counselor Khalid?
I just want to say that I think this action was taken August 17, which I was not present for. I would like to make an amendment to make it a majority council instead of 3 councilors.
So a majority of the council to even bring an action.
Correct. Yeah, to call for a review. And instead of 3 councilors, I think it should be 4 councilors because that is such a big decision. And I think it should be a majority council.
Okay.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table and a second to require a majority of the council. Any thoughts on that?
Sure, and I'm sorry, who seconded it? I'm so sorry.
did.
Thank you,
Counselor
Counselor.
Ray.
Thank you. My, I guess, only comment is that this wording in this recommendation did come from the Charter Review Committee and was reviewed with the city attorney. I don't know what discussions they had regarding majority or not. I know that the chair of the Charter Review Committee took the input and comments and suggestion from the August 17th meeting back. I don't specifically recall if a number of counselors was specifically mentioned the night of the 17th or not.
No, I don't think it was, but I think it was more from their committee that they wanted it to be at least more than 1 counselor or 2 counselor. I don't think they wanted to have a functionality to be able to have a smaller group of counselors at least be of like mind to bring it forward.
Counselor Clement?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would object to the amendment because this is not a finding, it is merely a charging situation. You've got 3 people bringing forward a question to be determined by the council as a whole. I don't think it needs to be a majority, and I would object to the amendment on those grounds. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything further you want to add to the reasoning?
Nope, just that's it. I just feel, it's a big decision for 3 people to make. Therefore, I think it should be done by 4 councilors.
Okay. Any other comments in reference to the amendment? Okay, seeing Counselor Clement?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're not making a decision. Those 3 people are not making a decision. They're merely bringing forward a question for determination.
Correct.
I would disagree with that wording.
Counselor Jensen?
Okay, not really taking a big stand right now, but I guess the issue comes down to what is the threshold we want for bringing up the discussion, and then, the threshold for any kind of, carrying forward action would, have to be 4 votes, so I'm kind of weighing that in my mind, is what should the threshold be for bringing it up? Should it be a majority, or should it be just 3? I don't know.
Okay. I think I understand the reasoning for the amendment, but I really do think that, if 3 councilors believe that there's been an ethics violation, I would not want to hold back them, providing them the ability to have that hearing and public discussion. I almost think that would be better for transparency, and the community, I think, potentially would have much more faith in its elected officials with that ability. So I understand why. And then I think, a hearing, if the council is found guilty of ethics violations, then it takes, I think, a supermajority, correct? It takes a supermajority to convict. Well, convict's probably the wrong word, but. Counselor Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thinking a little more too, I don't think it's likely to happen a lot, but it is possible for three like unified council members that are clearly on a majority that don't get their way. Like it is possible for them to, just maybe if they don't like someone on a committee to bring up the issue, have the discussion, and then if they don't get the vote their way, they could easily go, oh, the process is rigged, can't trust it. So I could see that happening. I just, so I do want to point out that could be an issue, but at the same time, I don't know how often that would happen, or if the public would be able to kind of see through and be like, come on, guys, like, you're clearly wrong on this. So if you had a 4-person threshold, you would kind of avoid that scenario, but at the same time, the trade-off would be that it'd be less likely that you'd, investigate possible ethics violations. And I think I would lean towards a system that's more likely to do investigations than not, but I think the amendment is very valid and smart, and to me, it's a trade-off situation, and so I think we should keep it at 3, but I do see a lot of value in doing the limit of 4. I want to make that clear. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? Did I go to the public originally?
I don't believe you have,
I
actually.
don't believe I have either. So to the public? Okay, seeing none, back to the council. Okay, so this is for the amendment only. Call the roll.
Sure. Counselor from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
No.
Ward 5,
No.
Ward 6,
No.
Ward 7,
No.
Ward 1.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
No.
motion failed by a vote of 2 to 5. So the original motion is before you now.
Okay, thank you. And let's just, so I think there's a general idea of the discussion, but I'll go to the public for the public hearing. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, call the roll.
Sure. Counselor from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
No.
and Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed by a vote of 6 to 1.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 8, please.
Item number 8, public hearing and final passage regarding an amendment to the administrative code regarding review of city attorney services at least every 10 years. Requested action that the proposed amendments to the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Sections 2-337, Review of City Attorney Appointment, receive final passage by a roll call vote.
So moved.
Move for passage.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Lee and seconded by Counselor Ray. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, to the public? Sometimes we get like multiple motions and multiple seconds, so it's just like, I just pick and choose. All right, seeing no public comments, I'll bring it back to the council. Questions, comments? Seeing none, call the roll,
Sure.
please.
Counselor from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
thank you. Agenda item number 9, please.
Item number 9, public hearing and final passage regarding an amendment to the administrative code regarding review of elected officials' compensation. Requested action that the proposed amendments to the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Sections 2-76, Salary of Elected and Appointed Officials, receive final passage by a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second the motion.
Moved by Counselor Jensen, seconded by Counselor Clement. With that, I'll open the public hearing, and any questions or comments from the council? Counselor Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I apologize, I was not at the August 17th meeting that was called. This is just to delete the personnel board lines and add in that it will be reviewed every 10 years, not to affirm the salaries. That's correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, to the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3,
Yes?
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Motion passed by a vote of 7 to 0.
thank you. Agenda item number 10, please.
Item number 10, public hearing and first passage to establish a recreation department and hire a recreation director. Requested action that the proposed amendments to the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2 Administration, Sections 2-236, Departments designated, receive first passage by a roll call vote, and that the public hearing on said ordinance be continued to the next regularly scheduled City Council meeting.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Counselor Ray, seconded by Counselor Jelinas. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the council? Counselor Ray?
I just want to hand it to the city administrator for working this out. This is sorely needed for the folks in our community, from the youth to the elderly. Our seniors could really benefit from this, so I just want to give that credit where it's due.
Okay. One quick thing. So in the information part of our packet, to reestablish a recreation department and hire a recreation director to increase recreation programming and community activities and aid in economic development initiatives. So we're saying that. We just got to make sure that's explained, I think, someplace, how that will help us, help our community with economic development. I understand how it will. But feel free to respond for the public's purpose.
No, I think you're right, Mr. Mayor. Not a lot of people associate recreation with economic development, but clearly we want to rejuvenate the population in Lewiston with young adults coming back and may have gone away to college, school, to come back, raise their family. And part of that returning to their home includes having kids not only in the school system, but recreating in our community. And if they come back, we now have a labor force, we now have people that are willing to begin starter businesses and small businesses and so forth. So there is a chain reaction with regards to all the elements that we could act and support economic development.
Great, thank you. And I think, like schools, recreation, families look at the services we provide for children before
Most
coming in.
definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, to the public? Would anyone like to speak in reference to the recreation program? Okay, seeing none, back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes?
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 11, please.
Item number 11, public hearing and first passage to amend the land use code and map to add a contract zone overlay to the riverfront zoning district to the property located at 143 Lincoln Street, the Dominican block, by Article 11, Section 23, space and bulk standards for minimum net lot area per dwelling unit from 1,250 square feet to 426 square feet. Requested action to approve first passage to amend the land use code and map to add a contract zone overlay to the riverfront zoning district for the property located at 43 Lincoln Street, the Dominican block, by amending Article 11, Section 23, space and bulk standards for minimum net lot area per dwelling unit from 1,250 square feet to 426 square feet, and to continue the public hearing for final passage to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
So
So,
moved.
second.
Okay, moved by Councilor Jelinas, seconded by Councilor LaJoy, and with that, I'll open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the council? So has this item been workshopped at all?
I believe it was talked about, but I don't think it's been formally workshopped. The city planner, Doug Green, is here. If he'd like to step to the podium, maybe you can share some insight too.
Just briefly for public's sake, thank you.
Very much so. Well, good evening, everyone. Yeah, we have here also Marika Thurman, who represents Fathom Properties, and they are wanting to redevelop the Dominican Block building. It's been up for lease for many years, so it's just waiting for some good use. The current zoning of riverfront zoning, as it states in your information here, only allows one dwelling unit for every 1,250 square feet of lot area. The developer would like to increase the density to up to 19 potential units, as well as putting commercial use on the first floor. So The planning board was unanimous in their support of this, encouraging you to support this as well. And I think this is a great step in the area. Lincoln Street area is looking for redevelopment, and I think this is going to be a good catalyst for more development in the area, add more energy to the area. So,
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing Councilor LaJoy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that is a extremely positive direction that we're hopefully taking this evening. That is a beautiful building. It's got a lot of history to it. On top of that, it's on the riverfront development area, which hopefully will move us forward, probably give us a kick in the behind to try to do something with that area a little quicker than we are. So I'm very happy to see this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none to the public? Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
and Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
thank you. Agenda item number 12, please.
Item number 12, public hearing and first passage to amend the zoning and land use code, Article 12, Performance Standards, Section 2, Shoreland zoning standards, and other related amendments as necessary. Requested action to approve first passage to amend the zoning and land use code, Article 12, Performance Standards, Section 2, Shoreland area standards, and other related amendments as necessary, and to continue the public hearing for final passage to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Jensen, and with that, I'll open the public hearing. And again, I don't believe we actually workshopped this, did we?
No.
So a brief review would be great.
yeah, I'll make this even more brief for a very expansive text amendment. A lot of information there, but the State Department of Environmental Protection 3 or 4 years ago updated their shoreland zoning law, and we've been working on the back burner for a while, and we now are in a position, we brought it through the planning board, and now coming to you tonight to seeking your endorsing and approving this change to the shoreland zoning ordinance. The packet of information you have summarized a number of points that the shoreland zoning amendment is going to make. I'd rather not get into all that because even the summarization is rather lengthy, but it also gave the staff an opportunity to look through the entire zoning ordinance for any other areas that could be clarified or corrected. So there's a number of things that not only amend the shoreland zoning ordinance to protect our waterways and shoreland areas of the No Name Pond and along the Androscoggin River, but then also, again, we can use this opportunity to clarify other parts of the zoning ordinance. We think it's helpful for people understanding the zoning ordinance, which is always a challenge.
All right, and so these documents are available through our agenda packet, but are they also available through the planning department website?
They are,
Okay,
correct,
very good,
yes.
thank you. All right, questions or comments by the council? Okay, to the public? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Council from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, and this is our last public hearing of the evening, I believe, so agenda item number 13.
Item number 13, public hearing for approval of an outdoor entertainment permit for a musical concert for the Taste of Harvest event. Requested action to conduct a public hearing on an application for an outdoor entertainment event for Dufresne Plaza and Lower Lisbon Street, and to grant a permit for an outdoor entertainment event as required by the City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 10, Article 1, Section 10-3, for an outdoor music concert to be held at Dufresne Plaza and Lower Lisbon Street on Thursday, October 21st, contingent upon positive recommendations from the Police Department, Fire Department, Code Health Officer, and Land Use Inspector regarding compliance with all regulations and compliance with all city ordinances.
So moved.
For passage.
Okay, moved by Council Khalid, and I had several moves also, but I'll take a second from somebody.
Second the motion.
Okay, moved by Counselor Khalid, seconded by Counselor Clement. And with that, I'll open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the council? Counselor Ray?
Sounds cool. Thanks, Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I was gonna just add the same thing, that, it's pretty, I wasn't gonna say cool, but, it's really exciting. We've had so much activity over the summer through LA Arts with extra performances, and now this, so this is exciting for our community, and it definitely attracts attention. And with that, I'll turn it over to the public. Any comments from the public?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Okay, call the roll, please.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
thank you. Agenda item number 14, please.
Item number 14, amendments to the city's ethics policy, Policy Manual Number 94. Requested action to approve the proposed amendments to the ethics policy, City Policy Manual Number 94.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor LaJoy, seconded by Councilor Khalid. Any brief staff presentation on this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, excuse me, city staff was conducting a review of policies and procedures for the city. The ethics policy was last changed in 2012. We noted, staff noted during review of this that it does not relate to elected officials or appointed members of committee of boards. We felt that it was necessary to have a code of conduct or expected policy for all involved working for the city. Elected officials aren't considered city employees. So in this policy, we've added the elected officials, appointed members of city boards and committees, along with the employees that will be held to the standard of the ethic policy. This would not supersede the city charter, which was discussed earlier, but this would just kind of give everybody an idea of what would be expected behavior when they're on an elected official, on a committee or a board member.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ray?
I don't disagree with the substantive changes here, but I'd like to offer an amendment that any place where we reference his or her in terms of, there's a lot of them, we just change that to their as we're working through this policy.
And then the only other suggested change that I saw that we might want to consider is in paragraph or section 14, violations of this code of ethics, including failure to report violations of others, may result in disciplinary action. Then it explains basically what an employee would go through versus an elected official. So I think there should be some type of reference to elected officials would follow the charter versus that. Does admin have any concerns with that, or do you think that is redundant and it's not needed?
No, we could place that in there, just for clarification purposes, I think would be fine.
So a motion was made and a second. Would the person making the motion and the second agree to those amendments?
I'm not sure what the First Amendment was, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't quite understand all the words.
Just to make it, is it gender neutral?
To remove the gendered words in here and make them agender.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments from the council in reference to this ethics policy involving elected officials? If not, to the public? Okay, seeing none, back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
We're voting on an amendment, or?
No.
Friendly
It was a
amendment.
friendly amendment, yeah.
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 15.
Item number 15, appointment to fill the current vacancy of the Ward 2 City Council position. Requested action, the council would need to make a motion, and then we would have the motion to appoint the nominee to fill the vacant Ward 2 position on the city council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Clement?
I move to table this until our next meeting on the 14th.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, seeing no second, we'll move with the original. Can you explain the,
I will second that.
you'll second that?
I will.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to table. Discussions on table? That's it.
This is until a time specific, so I don't know whether discussion is allowed or not.
Is discussion allowed on a table and, or you're checking? Okay.
It is, yes. Postpone to a time certain debate is allowable. And I think the debate, Counselor Clement, would be limited to the actual motion of the time being September 14th or not. Really germane to the actual motion, which is to table the matter to the September 14th meeting.
I'm not sure I understood what those instructions meant.
So, I'm sorry, so the Counselor Clement asked clarification if the motion before you, which is to postpone the matter to the September 14th City Council meeting, if that is debatable. And yes, the motion to postpone to a certain time is debatable under Robert's Rules of Order, but the discussion has to be germane to the motion, and the motion is to postpone to September 14th.
Thank you.
In other words, that would mean that we cannot discuss the reason for the motion, just the motion itself. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Counselor Ray?
Thank you. So per Lewiston City Charter, in the event of a vacancy of a city councilor, this city council has 30 days in which to appoint someone new. As this info sheet references, the mayor was notified on August 13th of the resignation, and so it is my belief that September 14th would fall beyond the 30 days. What happens according to charter then is we then give away this power of ours to the mayor's sole discretion to appoint within 10 days of that time. So no matter what, this has to happen before the 23rd of this month. And so I would highly discourage that folks vote against tabling this. I believe it gives up our right to this appointment.
I'm not sure that that is the case. I think that the computation of time may play in here, and I think that we'd be within our rights to move this to the 14th. And I think once the reason gets out there, the public would agree with us. We can't discuss the reason at present, but that may come up in the course of business this evening.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? Counselor Ray?
I should be specific that Lewiston City Charter says 30 calendar days. There might be other statute that might supersede that, but I believe that's the governing document of this body.
And I would agree that the state statute could supersede the city's charter.
Okay.
So,
Counselor Jelinek?
Mr. Mayor, yeah. If we don't have that answer, I mean, you bring up a really valid point, Councilor Ray, I hear you. But if we don't have the answer to that, Madam Clerk, can we really even vote on this? I guess, do you know what I'm saying? Like, if we don't have the answer to that, it seems a little like a moot point to be suspending. I mean, I seconded it, so I'm speaking out because before I vote on it, I want to make sure that we need to know whether or not can we even do that against the charter?
Right. The charter is the governing document for the city government.
Right.
Counselor Jensen?
Thinking on this motion, I mean, just for the public's sake too, what we're really discussing here is, yeah, according to the charter, we have a certain time limit where if we don't make the appointment, the mayor gets to make the appointment. So as a council, you don't really want to give up your power, which makes sense to you guys. I'm sure you understand that.
Not that they don't trust the mayor.
Yeah. Fully trust in our mayor, of course, but as a council, we just, don't want to cede power when we don't have to. And so, I just, for the public's sake, I want to kind of point that out, and that there's an issue where we don't kind of know if there is some state law that we don't have any inkling that exists that could supersede that rule. But again, no inkling that it exists, and so we'd be taking a chance that if that law that we don't have any inkling exists, if it does exist, then we're safe, we can make the vote as a council. But if it doesn't, then we lose our authority to do so. So that's kind of the situation we're dealing with as a council.
And, as mayor, I personally don't believe the council should be given up the authority to take this vote. I think it should be a council decision, and the charter puts a kind of a breaker there that the mayor can, and it's only if the council, it's there for the reason that if the council just is, ignoring its authority to replace one of its own members, and That should never happen, but when it does, then the mayor can step in, so. All right, any other, Councilor Clement?
Mr. Mayor, could we have a brief recess while we consult the charter to see the official language contained as to the appointment?
I think our clerk's already, I mean, I'm not going to deny a request for a recess, but I think our clerk has been pretty clear.
Well, I'm not sure that it refers to the mayor having to make the appointment.
It says the mayor shall make
Does it
the,
say the mayor shall? If that's the case, then the mayor shall. But I think once the public is aware of what's going on here, I think they'll be incensed.
Sure, I'm happy to read the clause in the charter, which I believe is section 2.06 subsection D.
please do.
If a vacancy in the office occurs less than 1 year prior to the next regular municipal election, the remaining members of the council may appoint an eligible person to fill the unexpired term within 30 calendar days after the vacancy exists. If the council fails to make such appointment within said 30 calendar days, the mayor shall appoint an eligible person to fill the unexpired term within 10 calendar days thereafter.
Okay. So, we still have the motion to tables on the floor, right?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Any other comments, questions in reference to the motion to table?
If the issue is this would put us beyond at our next meeting, could we not hold a special meeting earlier than the 14th? And this is all to evolve to the issue of fairness that I've spoken to before. So, I just think we owe fairness to the people involved.
Okay, so, so that comment still is related to the table in motion?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Relating to the tabling motion in that I would table it to a time specific sooner than the 14th, if that would take care of the hurdle that we seem to be putting before us here.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Jelinas?
If we could come to consensus on that, I would be able to vote on this motion. Otherwise, I would almost have to rescind my second because I don't want to be voting against what the charter says we have to be doing. But if we could meet before was it the 14th? I can't remember what the timeline was.
Yes, it was essentially would have to be later this week, a special meeting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be challenging to get our council together, but
Okay.
all right, so the motion to table's on the floor. If there's no other comments from or questions from council, call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Sorry, what's the motion? Sorry.
The motion is to postpone this matter to the
Oh, okay.
September 14th city council meeting.
That's a no.
Counselor from Ward 4?
No.
Ward 5?
No.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
No.
Ward 1?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
No.
Motion motion failed by a vote of 1 to 6.
Okay, thank you. Back to the original motion. Well, we don't have a motion, actually. We went right to a motion to table. So there were 3 people that applied. How many verifiable candidates are we considering tonight?
You have 1 candidate who's a registered voter of Ward 2.
Okay, so out of the 3 people that applied, we have 1 candidate who's an actual registered voter
Of Ward 2, correct.
of Ward 2. Yes, thank you. Okay. Is there a motion? Councilor Jensen?
I move that we appoint Caleb Roebuck to the empty Ward 2 City Council position.
Second.
Okay, motioned by Councilor Jensen, seconded by Councilor Khalid. Council discussion? Councilor Clement?
Mr. Mayor, I think it only fair the public hear what has happened. We had 3 candidates. 1 candidate does not reside in Ward 2, actually resides in Ward 3, therefore is disqualified. 1 other candidate believed that they registered to vote when they moved back to this state in 2020, November of 2020. I found out this afternoon in a telephone call from the clerk's office that, gee, we just discovered that you're not registered The individual said that I voted when I registered my vehicle or got my license, whatever the case was, with motor vehicle. Filled out the green card, I believe they call it, that the motor vehicle provides. They found out about this at 3:15 this afternoon, asked if they could make it into City Hall to register. They could not. This person is a professional person, an attorney who works as a prosecutor in Lincoln County, and had an appointment at 3:30. This person believed that they were registered to vote in the city of Lewiston. I think this whole issue, it's a farce. And I hope the public pays attention to who votes which way on this issue, because it's all about fairness. This person believed 100% that they were registered to vote, and I don't believe in any event that we should be giving an announced candidate for office an appointment to that office prior to the election. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, we have no evidence of the person actually registering to vote with the state. There's nothing that can be shown to the council that's evidence of that. Is that correct?
Correct. We have no record of that in the city clerk's office.
By the same token, we have no evidence that they did not register.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Just out of fairness, sir.
Absolutely. Councilor Jensen?
Yeah.
And so just, I'm sorry, hold on. This is going to be a heated discussion, councilors, because there are some definite differences in opinion here. So we have the public sitting here in front of us, and we have lots of people watching us, and I'm just a quick reminder that we all are here serving our community and doing the best that we can. So, okay, Councilor Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing, I just want to address that farce could be the farthest thing to describe the situation that we're in. It's not a farce. It's not a farce. This is a very transparent, open process. It's been very clear. The public would be very proud of how we've conducted this. The fact of the matter is that 2 people applied for the position. They were not registered to vote in Ward 2. One wasn't even registered to vote in Lewiston. Excuse me. If someone had registered to vote in Lewiston in October of 2020, there's the November election. There's also the school budget vote. You would have voted in both of those if you probably want to serve in a city council. In both of those situations, you would have realized you're not registered to vote in Lewiston. So applying to run for an open, or to fill the vacancy of a Ward 2, council position, the research, they didn't do the research. They didn't do their homework. That doesn't give me confidence in someone as a colleague and someone who's going to represent the ward. And so we have to acknowledge that. It's not an issue with the registration by the state. It's not an issue. It's someone that was not. Yep, I'm speaking.
Let's address the council and not individuals, please.
Okay. So I guess when it comes down to it, there is no issue with registration. Somebody had choices they could have made, and they failed to make those choices, and now they have to deal with the consequences of their actions. I teach that to my students. It's just how we learn in life. As far as, I get there is some consternation in the public about appointing someone who's running for a seat this election, and that the idea that it might give them some kind of advantage. I disagree with that. I think the people of Ward 2 are very capable, very intelligent, and they're not going to be swayed by a decision that we make as a council to put someone on our council. They're going to vote for who they want, and if anything, the person that we're putting on is going to be under more scrutiny, and there's going to be even more transparency with the public on them because of the position that they'll be in, the spotlight that they'll be in. I think it'll be better for the public, honestly. So I do get the consternation. When you really break it down, I don't see a conflict here. I don't see any way that he can use the position to benefit himself or even to win the election. I think it'll make it harder for him to win the election, if anything. So I don't necessarily agree with that argument. I do know that Mr. Roebuck's been out knocking on doors pretty aggressively. He's doing his work. I would argue that he probably understands his constituents' need based on the conversations he's had with them. He understands their needs better than we probably do of our own constituents. At the time, based on how much work he's putting in right now. The private conversations I've had with him have been great. Again, I do want to point out that he is the only actual candidate that we could vote for tonight, the only one that applied that is residing in the ward. So I don't feel like we should disqualify him and go with nobody, just because he's someone who's stepping up. And as someone who is stepping up and relatively on the younger side, it's not easy. And so the fact that you want to do this, part of me thinks you're crazy, but I'm so glad that you're doing this because we need people to step up and serve in the public. And so someone who's willing to do that, I don't think we should really, not give the opportunity to. But I do get, if there's any consternation, and I don't want to just, invalidate people in the public feeling that way. So I want to make that clear, too.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Jelinas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, definitely a hot topic. It's kind of an unfortunate series of events that have transpired. I feel like I hear you, Councilor Jensen, and I definitely hear your points, but from another perspective, I think certainly if Mr. Roebuck is out there doing doors, he's going to deserve that permanent position for sure. I personally feel that a declared candidate running in a contested race is going to be given a leg up, if you will, just being the incumbent in that race. So that's just another side to the coin.
Councilor Clement?
Mr. Mayor, just briefly, the issue, once again, fairness. This candidate believed, in all honesty, that she was registered to vote in Lewiston. The first question I had from her when she indicated an interest in filling in this position, are you a registered voter in Ward 2? Yes, I am. She believed that she was. She didn't find out until 3:15 this afternoon that that was the case. The woman is an attorney. She's admitted to the bar in both the states of Maine and Virginia. She has served previously on the planning board. All she wants to do is fill out the term. She's not running for office. So I think in fairness to her, we should at least give her a crack at it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none to the public. Okay, back to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there were several emails sent to the city today, and I don't know that anybody is still here tonight because they heard that this was not going to be on the agenda. So I know there were people that I heard of that were coming to speak in favor of the candidate tonight, so.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank the 3 folks who did fill out the application, no matter what the outcome is. I know 2 have served the city already in different capacities, Planning Board and Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission, and those are really valuable experiences that I hope get brought forth into other committee appointments from henceforth. And to the 3rd person who hasn't served on anything yet, please apply for other things. We are always in need of folks who are vying for the best interest of Lewiston on all of these boards and committees, and so I just want to voice that for these candidates and any future candidates.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Call the roll, please.
Counselor, so just for clarification, Mr. Mayor, if I could read the motion, which is to appoint Caleb Roebuck to fill the vacant Ward 2 position on the Lewiston City Council, said appointment to be effective as of September 7th, 2021, and to expire January 4th, 2022. City Councilor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
No.
Ward 7?
No.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
No.
Motion passed by a vote of 4 to 3.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Agenda item real quick, sorry. So welcome. And so I think you should get a hold of staff tomorrow if you have the opportunity. There'll be a brief orientation that you should, hopefully can work into your schedule. I think the deputy city administrator has handled that. And I think we'll get a card to you. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, agenda item number 16, please.
Item number 16, to establish a grant program for the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. Requested action to approve the establishment of an American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, travel, tourism, and hospitality industry grant program not to exceed $500,000 over a 2-year period with a sunset of June 30th, 2024, and any unobligated funds to be split equally and returned to the 2 ARPA infrastructure projects.
Move for passage.
Okay, moved by Councilor Ray,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Jelinas. So I'll bring it to the, sorry for the confusion, bring it to the council for discussion or questions. Okay, Councilor Ray?
I just wanted to thank Councilor Jelinas for raising this a couple meetings ago, and to staff for their quick action on this. I think it's something we overlooked in the initial ARPA funding and making this accommodation was really important to a lot of us, so I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, to the public?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
City Council, I'm Scott Riccio. I own Northeast Charter and Tour Bus Company here in Lewiston. I'm a resident of Auburn for 22 years, and my business has been based on Goddard Road for about 15. I want to first thank the council and the city officials, Heather, who have been very helpful to us in listening some of the things we've gone through. COVID-19 has decimated the motor coach industry and the travel and tourism industry. 18 months in the first year, losing 95% of our revenue. As I say to my drivers, to keep the rails on the train, it's a little challenging when there's no revenue coming in. Year two, we're hovering somewhere around 50%, which is good, but as the city knows, we don't have all of our motor coaches registered because there's no demand and we can't really pay the excise tax for vehicles we don't need. 7 of them sit parked. Our school bus side is doing well, and we're keeping afloat with the districts we have in Winthrop, Lincolnville, and we run Acadia Academy here in town. But Delta is real. And we've seen cancellations, and we're hoping that Delta doesn't have something else behind it a year from now, because it will be 2 full years before this industry really feels all of the effects of the pandemic and come out from where we are. We were at 105 employees pre-pandemic. Currently, we run around 70. Some drivers have chosen not to come back, but we're doing okay with the number of drivers we have. My wife and I only have to drive once in a while, so that's not a bad sign. But we do what we have to, and we have a skeleton crew, and we have a great staff that help us get through what we try to do every day, from operating the vehicles, cleaning the vehicles, maintaining the vehicles, selling the vehicles, etc. The city has been great. I really applaud all that your listening that you've done. I know a lot of cities in the state of Maine that are not listening to the motor coach companies that are based in their town. And you should all be very proud of that, because nobody has gotten where I've gotten with the city of Lewiston in this state. So thank you for that. There is federal funding, but it is tiered 60-40, 60% to payroll. And that's one of the reasons we don't have a driver problem. You read the articles in the paper the other day, you could read them across the country. There is a driver problem in this country, and we don't have one. First day of school, we didn't have any issues in our 3 districts. Our charter drivers are doing well. Once in a while, we have to jump in because we have regulations, hours of service, family commitments, that kind of stuff. No big deal. We do what we have to do. If I need to clean buses, we go clean buses. If people don't show up, we take care of it. The phone rings, we jump in. It's just the way it works. That's how this business started in my backyard in Auburn with 1 vehicle. And today we operate 62. They're not all registered, but that's how many I own. Some days it's 62 too many, but that's how many we have. We are a great company and doing great things here in the state of Maine and the city of Lewiston. We are a business set up to do 7 days worth of business, and essentially there's only 3 days worth of people walking in the door. The hospitality industry is feeling the same pinch, especially when it comes to workers. That's why this program is really beneficial to all of the businesses here in the city. A grant program for travel, tourism, and hospitality is a big deal. It's a very big deal, and you should all be very grateful that you took it under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
May I?
Absolutely.
Okay. My name is Shanna Cox. I'm in Ward 3. I'm also the president and CEO of the Lewiston-Auburn Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. We are very, very fortunate to have Mr. Riccio and Northeast Charter and Tours, not only a member of our chamber, but a member of this city. And I just want to applaud all of you for taking this step with this grant program, and to say a few of the things that Scott would never be too proud to say. He has done so much for this community. And when I first learned about both the motor coach industry, and he's a fantastic educator, and its impact from the pandemic, not just to them, the families, the drivers, but the ripple effect of all of the places that tourism shows up that, quite frankly, is growing up in a tourist-based economy on the coast. You don't really think of Lewiston as a tourist community, but the hospitality community that's served here, the ripple effect from day camps to college, sports programs, all of the ways in which we rely on his buses, and quite frankly, will need to rely on his buses. It's a small handful of motor coach companies across the state, and what you wouldn't know is Scott is a leader among them, not just within our state, but within our region and within the nation. He's well regarded by his peers and his industry as a whole, and it is exciting and appropriate to think about ways to support his business and his peers within hospitality and travel, because when we're a city within Maine that has 60% of its population in 30 miles, we want to maximize that. And our opportunity to do so is by having a business here who stays strong during this time. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, I want to really reemphasize what Councilor Ray stated, that we really appreciate Councilor Jelinas aggressively getting the council to consider this in a good way. And then I just want to acknowledge Northeast Charter. They pay significant excise tax to this community when they're up and running. And I'm sure, and then property taxes in the area where his business is, and it's not a small facility, it's a good-sized facility. But more than that is a community engagement. I can't speak enough from the things I've heard. You truly are a neighbor. You may reside in Auburn, but your business is here, and you treat Lewiston like it's your home. So thank you, sir. Okay, any questions or comments from the council? Okay. Call the roll, please.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item 17, please.
Item number 17, to transfer ARPA funds to establish a grant program for the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry and to purchase additional personal protective equipment. Requested action to approve 3 budget transfers from various infrastructure projects to establish a $500,000 grant program and fund $5,000 PPE-related purchases.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor LaJoy, seconded by Councilor Ray. Questions or comments from the council? To the oops, Councilor Ray.
Sorry, could you just briefly remind us what transferring the $250,000 from CSO and redundant water main, what the balances will be once we take those out?
I think it's in the neighborhood of $1,100,000 and some thousand, 112,000.
Still a well-appointed budget?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Essentially, it would switch that funding over to the bond authorization.
Great.
And this grant is not property tax, Lewiston local taxpayers. It's all money that was provided to the city through the federal grant.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Under the recovery program.
Yes. Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? To the public? Back to the council? Call the roll, please.
Counsel from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item number 18.
Item number 18, to reaffirm the city's tax-acquired status and authorize the city administrator to dispose of city-owned property through a real estate broker. Requested action to reaffirm the city's tax-acquired status of properties located at 741 Webster Street, 55 Old Lisbon Road, and 170 and 176 No Name Pond Road, and to sell those properties along with 976 Sabata Street, subject to final planning board approval on 55 Old Lisbon Road, and to authorize the city administrator to execute the purchase and sale agreements and other related closing documents based upon the highest and best offer received.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Ray, seconded by Councilor Khalid. Questions or comments from the council? Is there anything staff would like to?
No, I will add at least the first 4 properties, the reaffirming are tax-acquired properties. Collection on those properties, as well as notice of violation, extends back to April 4th of 2007. And there have been various efforts and agreements since that time to pursue. This order allows us to still not only negotiate with the family members if an agreement would be reached, but also allows the city to move forward and execute the sale if that's the course of action that's needed.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the council after that? Okay, seeing none to the public. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your time today, Mr. Mayor and City Council people. My name is Amy Correo. I'm here with my 2 brothers, Frank and Nico Correo. We are the representatives of the estate of Frank Correo Jr. We're here today to inform the council that we do have the funds to cover the back taxes and utility liens, which have brought about this agenda item to you this evening. In light of this, we ask that you stop the disposal sale, allowing us to redeem our family's property. I first want to start out by mentioning that the three of us are from Lewiston. We grew up here. These are homes that we grew up in, actually. My father, Frank, has lived here his entire 78 years, with the exception of a couple of years when he went to college in Florida, but returned here knowing he wanted to raise his family here. He had several life-threatening illnesses over the course of his life, and most recently, he was diagnosed with acute leukemia, at which time he was told he had to undergo a stem cell transplant. And if he didn't, that he would have several months to live. Unfortunately, that did require him to move out of state, to which he declined, knowing that it would prove his demise earlier, because he felt that this was home and he did not want to move away. So instead, he did undergo experimental therapies, immune therapies, and chemotherapies. However, he did eventually succumb to his disease in April of 2020. During the years during that treatment, his mental health declined steadily, progressing to the point in 2019 where he was forgetting to take his medications. He had a seizure, a severe accident on Sabata Street, and never returned home. He underwent multiple procedures to determine whether or not he had leukemia in his brain, but it actually was progressive dementia. And he stayed in a nursing home until he passed away. During this time, we were faced with navigating a complex and grueling process, making end-of-life arrangements during COVID, when state and local governments were issuing contradictory guidance for COVID-19, and it was horrific and draining for us and, of course, everyone in this room and the citizens of Lewiston. On October 31st, we were appointed personal representatives of the estate, and in an attempt to understand the status, I contacted Mrs. Pamela LaBelle in the tax assessor's office to obtain the current bills on November 16th, so just a couple of weeks later, and unfortunately, she had kind words to say about my dad, and acknowledged that he had been declining for some time over email during that time, but it was surprising to us that we were not allowed to communicate with the city directly, and were asked to communicate with, instead, the city official, the city's attorney. So after obtaining further information from the city's legal representation, the estate made an offer to the city through legal representation on December 15th. It did include the sale of two of the properties at 170 and 176 No Name Pond Road. Unfortunately, the city declined this offer in the following days. The city then acquired the properties via automatic foreclosure. During this time, the estate continued to work diligently to outline a satisfactory plan to the city, which again included the sale of these properties. Because of the city's attorney indicated that the city would permit the sale originally, we went forward with getting an appraisal and obtaining a realtor to move forward with the sale of those properties. But unfortunately, on July 22nd, after much of the work had been done by the estate, the city's attorney notified us that that we could no longer proceed with the sale of the property, and as it had been previously discussed. So over the next several weeks.
Let me interrupt you for one
Sure.
second. So are you speaking for your entire family tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna allow a little extra time, considering that each one of them could, get
Sure.
3 minutes, but please try to wrap it up, though.
Sure.
Thank you.
Over the next several weeks, the estate then worked to pool personal resources to pay the utilities and the taxes in order to reacquire the properties, offering a proposal on September 1st of 2021. So in summary, we sit before you today and ask that you table the discussion allowing the sale of these properties. We feel that it would be in the best interest of all parties, including the citizens of Lewiston, to relinquish all the owed taxes by us personally. We continue to communicate regularly with the city's attorney in hopes that we can come to an acceptable agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So any other public discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Any questions or comments from the council? All right, so I would quickly just like to reassure the family that no matter what the vote result is tonight, the city is still open to negotiating with you folks, and hopefully, you know, that we're going to be able to get to a place, but.
I just want to reiterate, we have the money today.
We heard that.
Proven that to the city's attorney.
Thank you.
And I also forgot to, sorry, mention one
Quickly.
thing. That I was appointed guardianship of my father during the time prior to, and so I'm not sure I mentioned that, but he was considered incapacitated during the time prior to his death, and so I did have guardianship during that time.
All right, thank you, and you're all set to have a seat now.
Thanks.
Thanks. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3,
Yes?
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 19, please.
Item number 19, to approve the Maine Association of Police Patrol and Supervisory Command Unit sidebar agreements and execute the amended Maine PERS plan documents. Requested action to approve the MAP sidebar agreements for both the patrol and police supervisory units, changing Maine PERS special plan coverage from 2C to 3C for future service only, effective October 1st, 2021, and to have the interim city administrator execute the amended Maine PERS contract and sidebar agreements.
Move for passage.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Clement, seconded by Counselor Jensen. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing none to the public. Back to the council. So for public's sake, I'd like to add that, you know, we have a police department that is understaffed right now, and we're having a difficult time, like every other police department in the state, retaining police officers. And the city council is working hard with staff. In fact, I think staff brought this to the council for consideration, and we're really appreciative that they did. But we're trying to develop a plan that officers want to apply and stay in Lewiston, and we think this is a reasonable way of doing that and making an attempt to help with retention. So just for public info, Councilor Ray.
I apologize. Can staff remind us when this came to the council? During what meeting? Was it the 17th?
I'm sorry, say that again?
During which meeting was the information brought forward to the council?
That was brought forward in an
Executive
executive session.
On the 17th?
I believe so.
It was probably the meeting you weren't here.
Yeah.
Okay.
For those reasons, I'm sorry, I don't know the economics behind this, so I will be abstaining.
Okay. Was that in, so you weren't provided a copy of that package?
The email, it was forwarded, I think, via email, but I can double check that.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, that's my own non-preparation.
No, and
I
just, I'm
apologize.
glad you're acknowledging it's for that reason, that you're not stating you're against it or
Right,
anything
I
at this
just-
point. All right, very
Sorry.
good. Any other questions, comments from the council?
Mayor,
Councilor
just
Clement.
briefly, for folks that don't think that policing in Lewiston is dangerous, read the papers over the weekend. One of our officers suffered 3 broken bones, I believe, trying to effect an arrest on a disorderly person. Numbers are down. As you say, it is difficult, and for the reason I am 100% behind this package, we need to get back to strength before something even worse happens.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Excuse me,
I
Councilor
will
Ray.
just say, so I just looked back in my email, and the agenda sheet was changed, but no additional information was provided via email. I apologize that I did not see this before this moment, but I don't have the info.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3,
Abstaining.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 5,
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by vote of 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 20.
Item number 20, to implement various organizational changes and hire the necessary personnel. Requested action to approve compliance with City Ordinance Article 5, Section 2-236 by reestablishing the Human Resources Department and hire a director, and further evaluate the organizational structure within code enforcement, planning, and economic development to add personnel capacity particularly related to assisting economic development initiatives.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Khalid, seconded by Councilor Ray. I would assume we have a brief staff presentation.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As you might recall, during a transition discussion and looking at the capacity within the organization, HR was one of those areas that proved especially related to the recent COVID regulations and personal policies, as well as areas within code enforcement, planning, and economic development, and looking at the capacities in those departments in order to improve executing various initiatives and strategic objectives that the city council had.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, to the public. Back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Council from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 21.
Item number 21, resolve expressing support for the Avangrid Central Maine Power Company's New England Clean Energy Connect project, also referred to as NECEC. Requested action to approve the attached resolve expressing support for the Avangrid Central Maine Power Company's New England Clean Energy Connect project.
So moved.
Second the motion.
Okay, moved by Councilor Jensen, seconded by Councilor LaJoy. Questions or comments from the council? Councilor Clement?
Mr. Mayor, just by way of explanation, last Friday, I attended a meeting up in Bingham with State Representative John Connor. What I learned from this meeting has furthered my resolve in favor of this project. The opposition to the project, if they were required to meet the oath that we give witnesses in court of telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, there'd be no question that they couldn't do it. There are half-truths out there. There are insinuations that are false. I think people need to look at who is behind, or the money behind, the opposition to this project, and they'll see very quickly. They'll see that there are outfits that work with natural gas power generation, solar, wind generation, and they're just in opposition to the hydro because they're not making any money off it. The other thing that sticks in my craw about this, you, Mr. Mayor, as a former law enforcement officer, I'm sure, are well aware of the clauses in both the federal and state constitutions against retroactive or ex post facto legislation. That applies in all criminal matters, but I found out through research, not necessarily in matters like this. There have been cases where the courts have allowed retroactivity. Put it this way, let's say you buy a home on the lake, and you do your due diligence there, you work, you upgrade the property, and pretty soon you put in a dock. You go through the permitting process in your town, and they say, yep, go right ahead and put in your dock. This is, say, 2010. 2017, somebody buys a lot next to you and builds another residence. We can't see the lake. Your dock is in our view. Take it down. No, hey, my dock is legal. I got permits for it. They go to the permitting authority, and the permitting authority says, well, I guess they've got a valid point. We're going to take and disavow your permit. You'll have to tear the dock down. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. So once you do something, it's very hard to unring the bell, as I always say. And that's what we've got in the case here. And I'm firmly behind this project now. The economic benefit to the city of Lewiston, we know what that's going to be. We've seen this year what the start of this project has brought forefront in our property valuation. And it's only going to improve from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? Councilor Ray?
I think, you know, as we all sit here as city council members and the mayor of Lewiston, our charge is to vote in the best interests of Lewiston, and we have already seen great economic benefit from this project. And so I intend to reaffirm my support for this project based on that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can understand that nobody really likes CMP. I get it, I don't either, but a dislike of CMP should not override the benefits, the enormous benefits that this would bring to Lewiston. I mean, like a minimum of $6 million annually in tax revenue. The rest of the state does not treat Lewiston well, so if the rest of the state has to deal with a slim corridor of trees being torn down to put up power lines, for Lewiston to get not even what it deserves, just to get a little bit back, I think it's well worth it. And so I certainly hope everyone in Lewiston can see that their dislike of CMP should not override their love of Lewiston.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? Councilor Clement?
Just one brief point, Mr. Mayor, I failed to mention. There is an ad out there indicating that Central Maine Power, I'm no big fan of Central Maine Power, I'll admit it, but that they illegally took land and went through it on this project, that a judge decided that. Well, there was an appeal filed, and the law court in Maine has stayed or obeyed that judge's order, so the lease has not been vacated. And they're still proceeding. I mean, it's not an illegal project.
Okay.
So you've got to listen to what's being said and listen very carefully. They want you to believe things that are not necessarily quite true. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure both sides will have plenty of money to get their message out to everyone through the state. We can expect a lot of ads.
Lawyers
Any other
Economic
questions
Recovery
or
Act.
comments from the council? Seeing none to the public. Okay, back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
thank you. Agenda item number 22, please.
Item number 22, resolve authorizing applying for, accepting, and appropriating a grant from the John T. Gorman Foundation for the purpose of funding Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant personnel and related activities. Requested action to approve the resolve authorizing the application for, acceptance of, and appropriating a grant from the John T. Gorman Foundation for the purpose of funding Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant personnel support and related activities.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilor Jensen, seconded by Councilor Jelinas. Brief staff.
I believe our Economic Development Manager will be speaking on this subject.
Good evening, Misty
evening.
Parker, Economic Development Manager. So as you are all aware, this past spring, the city received, in partnership with Lewiston Housing, a Choice Implementation Grant to do a substantial amount of reinvestment in the Tree Streets neighborhood over the next 5 years. And while the grant does provide some administrative support, this is a very large initiative in a very short period of time. 5 years seems like a lot, but there is a lot of work to get done in that short time. The John T. Gorman Foundation has been a supporter of the work that we have been doing here in the community and recognizes the city has a strong role in the implementation effort and some responsibilities associated with that, and have expressed their willingness to work with us to support additional staff capacities, however that may look in this effort, because it is important to the city. So the request before you tonight is to authorize us to follow up on this invitation to apply for funding that could help us on the staff capacity side as we do this work.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ray.
Thank you for that presentation. I'm so glad this work is moving forward. Do we have an idea of amount we're applying for might be appropriated, just some sort of scale?
So we are still in discussions about exactly how the amount that would be needed. There has been discussion about the equivalent of one full-time staff person. However, you are aware that we are discussing capacity restructuring changes within the Economic Development Office. And so to pinpoint that tonight, I can't for you, but I do want to just reiterate that it was initial discussions around full-time staff person.
Okay, and I'm not going to be one to turn down applying for more money.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none to the public. back to the council. Call the roll, please.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Agenda item 23, please.
Item number 23, resolve to request to the Maine Department of Transportation to create a rail corridor advisory council to evaluate a rail trail conversion of the state-owned portion of the state-owned St. Laurent and Atlantic Railroad. Requested action to approve the attached resolve to request to the Maine Department of Transportation to create a rail corridor advisory council to evaluate a rail trail conversion of the state-owned portion of the state-owned St. Lawrence and Atlantic Railroad.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Ray,
Second.
seconded by Counselor LaJoy. Link, do you have a brief presentation?
I do, yes. This is a topic that has been discussed for quite a few years. Doug is staff to the Complete Streets Committee, who has been really pushing for rail trail conversion, whether it's the St. Laurent and Atlantic line or the Lewiston Lower, which is the one that runs from here to Topsom through Lisbon. This one got some momentum, and the latest legislation from the state really created a mechanism whereby communities along a corridor, which I should note, Lewiston is not on the St. Laurent and Atlantic corridor, but that's one of the rail lines that's been considered for passenger rail. Going to Portland, it's not been the preferred route, but it is one of the ones under consideration, so I think it's been a question mark. And so for the council to take action, whether or not they would be in support of simply, basically a study committee, this resolution would go to the DOT would then go to the legislature and say, here are the communities who've asked for these advisory committees to evaluate whether it makes sense. So in a nutshell, that's what this is all about.
All right, thank you. And I addressed you, Link, I apologize. Lincoln Jeffers, our Director of Economic Development, just.
No offense taken.
All right, questions or comments from the council? Councilor Khalid?
I have one question. I remember the passenger rail study, I believe it was LD 991. What happened to that?
There is continuing momentum with the state DOT to fund it. I believe each community was $10,000 from Lewiston, $10,000 from Auburn, and
The city of Lewiston had their money already appropriated. I think Auburn was appropriating theirs, if not tonight, in the near future.
so that would be moving forward with the next phase of an analysis for the passenger rail.
Okay, thank you.
So it appears they're working two angles here at the state level, and I think actually it's good for us to be in on both, depending on what the results are. I believe rail is years away, even if the study shows, its economic value, I still believe it's years away. So I think there's a good chance we can have both. My thoughts. All right, any other questions? Comments from the council? Seeing none to the public. Okay, back to the council. Call the roll.
Counselor from Ward 3?
Yes.
Ward 4?
Yes.
Ward 5?
Yes.
Ward 6?
Yes.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 25.
Item number 25, reports and updates.
Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Androscoggin County Budget Committee begins its work tomorrow night, and so I wanted to ask the council, currently the proposed expenditures are 2.11% over last year's, and so as the county tax rate does play into what Lewiston ratepayers pay, it's convoluted, just wanted to see if you all are comfortable with that number. It might actually be a little bit higher. We added a little bit of money to the sheriff's, or the county commission added a bit of money to the sheriff's department, but I don't think it would go past like 2.13% at this point. Is that an area we're comfortable with? That tax rate is an off cycle from the school committees and the city council's budget. So just looking for any indication if folks too high, too low, up to us.
Have you had much public input into that budget?
So the county commission took a public hearing last Wednesday, and no one spoke about it. And then There were two increases, sorry, I said one before. The first is to the sheriff's department for $13,000, not very much, but it's just to appoint some of his folks as supervisors. So that's 24/7 supervision. We're also raising the death benefit for a widower of the sheriff's department to come more in line with the COLA increases that have happened year after year. The total budget itself passed 5-1 from the county commission to the budget committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Councilor Clement?
Question for Councilor Ray, if I might. You said that 2.13% increase in the county budget? None of that is having to do with their proposed communication center or anything like that?
Correct. There is no money allocated towards a proposed merger in this budget.
All right. As it should be. Anyway. Any other suggestions or comments for Councilor Ray on that? Councilor Clement?
2.13%, I don't believe we've been that high in the last 2 years, Mr. Mayor.
I don't believe we have. There was a little cliff they had to deal with, I think, at the county this year, though.
I'll make sure we sharpen our pencils.
Okay.
That'll be appreciated, being a taxpayer.
All right. Anything else? Okay, any other reports or updates?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would just report out, as a member of the Lewiston Area Public Health Committee, a reminder to folks that the Lewiston Area Public Health Committee, City of Lewiston, will be hosting the first Rally for Recovery on Saturday, September 18th, to be held at Kennedy Park. And just really encourage folks to get out there and see all the things we have planned. It's going to be quite an event.
Okay, good, thank you. Could we just get somebody from staff to send calendar invites to the council on that date and time?
Yes, I will.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports or updates? Okay, seeing none. Agenda item 26. Any other business councilors or others have relating to the city of Lewiston? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to take a recess for 5 to 10. Let's do a 10-minute recess. And then we'll come back and enter into executive sessions. Yes? Am I missing something? I'm getting a look from the administrator.
No.
No, okay. All right, we'll be in recess. That's official. I have to do that.
Official now.
You also have to say, that's official, I have to do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I gotta find the, I'm gonna need someone to read the executive, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, and we're back in session. And our last two items on the agenda are two separate executive sessions. So I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Section 405(6)(c) to discuss an economic development issue of which the premature disclosure of the information would prejudice the city.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilor LaJoy, seconded by Councilor Khalid. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Do
passed by
that.
a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you.
All right.